Welcome to the Scalable Real Estate Investing Podcast, where we discuss the most scalable strategies, tools, and approaches to successfully invest in real estate. Learn how to make the most impact of your time, automate your real estate investing business, find off-market deals with minimum time invested, and leverage your capital to create as many income streams as possible so that you can achieve true financial independence. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Mason Clement. Hi everyone, Mason Clement here. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to ask you one question. Are you sick of the wild swings in the stock market and ready to try something different? Did you know that investing in stocks actually put you at the very bottom of a company's capital structure, meaning that there's practically 0% chance that you're going to get any of your money back in the event that the company files bankruptcy? That basically you're putting yourself in the riskiest position for a questionable return. Personally, I hate the unpredictability and just waking up and having half of my investment gone when I didn't do anything wrong. So what a lot of people don't know is that you can actually make higher returns on a consistent basis by investing in the opposite end of the capital structure, which is actually the safest place to be, which is on the debt side in a first lien position. And you can do that by investing in real estate, and specifically investing with my company in notes that are backed by the land that we purchase. So if you're ready to diversify your income stream, go ahead and go over to scalablerei.com and click on invest in the top right corner. There you're going to find a form that you can fill out to determine if you're eligible to invest with my company, Celion Capital, and we'll be reaching out to you to schedule an introductory call and speak more from there. So thanks a lot, and let's jump into the episode. Hi, Scalable investors. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Scalable Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Mason Clement. And today we have Henry Washington, who is an author, entrepreneur, real estate investor with more than 65 rental units, done dozens of house flips, and has a ton of value to add here. That's why we're having him on the show. Excited to get into things. Without further ado, Henry, how you doing? What's going on today?
Well, how about you? Thanks for having me.
Sure. I'm doing good. I'm enjoying this nice, hot Texas weather.
Yeah, same. We're not far from you, so it's about the same here.
Yeah, you're over in Arkansas, right?
Yep. Nice and muggy and sticky and sweaty.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I haven't done deals over there, but I heard land goes pretty low prices, like price per acre over there.
Yeah, it depends on obviously where in Arkansas you're talking about. I'm in a pretty cool, that's a fun word to use with the state of Arkansas, but I'm in a pretty cool place. And it's cost of living's substantially higher here than in the rest of the state because of all of the industry and things that are here. So like there's some areas around here where land's expensive, but then, you drive an hour in any direction and you can probably find some cheap land.
Okay, cool. Well, I know you're focusing mainly on houses and everything. So why don't we just back up a second? Anyone that's not familiar with you maybe want to understand your background. So what was your path? What got you involved in real estate and brought you to today?
Yeah, so I started investing 4.5, almost 5 years ago. I moved to Arkansas to work for Walmart, who's headquartered here. I did data analytics and software design for them for about 10, 11 years. So make great money. But didn't have financial education, so spent all the money as well. And just kind of was doing the things that people do, work a job, climb the corporate ladder, get paid, spend all your money. And then I got married, and my wife did not want to spend all the money that we made. And so I had to make some adjustments to my lifestyle, quickly learned that I knew nothing about how to manage my money. And we tried to buy a house that didn't work out for me, worked out great for her. My credit was bad, so the bank told me I couldn't be on the loan. And so just kind of a couple wake-up calls that led me to realize like I needed to make some adjustments. And so I went on a search for ways to make more money, and through my search just kept hearing about real estate as a path to passive income. And that was really the first time I had heard that, or I guess said differently, it's the first time I actually paid attention to like who actually owned the real estate. I just assumed rich people and corporations owned all the real estate, and I assumed you had to have money to make money, kind of a thing, just what what most people assume. And so as I started researching and seeing people who were owning multiple doors and properties and things, and realizing that they were just dudes and dudettes, just some people who figured it out, I was like, well, I guess this is a figure outable thing. And so I made a decision to just figure out how to do it. Surrounded myself with every local investor I could, went to every meetup I could, multiple times a week or month, just trying to immerse myself in the culture, on the people, started to build a network of people, started to just tell people I was an investor, even though I only had $1,000 in my savings account and and bad credit. But I feel like in this universe, you get what you give. And so I decided I wanted to put it out there that that's what I was, because I told myself I was going to be a successful investor, even though I didn't know how. And that led me to my first deal, which was through a lead who heard I was buying real estate, because that's what I was telling people. He was in a pretty tough spot with a house and said, hey, I'll sell you this house for 115 that's worth 160 if you can close on it in 30 days, because I have to have the money from this sale to go buy this property for my church. So if you can get it done in 30 days, it's yours for this price. I told him I would do it, even though I had no clue how, and ended up putting that property under contract, and then taking that contract first to my network of investors who I had been building relationships with over the past 90 days, and said, hey, this guy wants to sell me this house. Seems like a great deal. How the heck are you guys getting the money for this? Because I don't have but $1,000. And so they helped me brainstorm some ideas of being creative on how to come up with the down payment, which was using a 401k loan. Essentially, I borrowed the money out of a 401k. Bought the house, we raised the rents to market rates, and the property cash flow paid back the 401k. So was able to leverage that to buy that first deal. And then on top of that, so the 401k loan covered the down payment. In order to purchase the rest of the property, I went to a small local bank with that contract literally physically in my hand. I didn't know who financed homes. I just knew banks had money. And so I went to the bank closest to my office at work, because I just figured that was the best place to start. And I walked in with a piece of paper in my hand and said, I would like to buy this house. Can someone help me? And they told me they looked at the deal, said it was a great deal, said they'd be happy to finance it as long as I can come up with the 15%. And so I used the 401k loan as the down payment. I used the bank for the 85%. I bought the house, cash flow, paid back the 401k loan. And then the bank called me later and said, would you like to take out a line of credit on the equity? Because we would like for you to bring us more deals like this. And so that kind of started this learning process of understanding like how small community banks work, and they make their money different than the large banking organizations. Small local banks need to loan to small community businesses to stay relevant, to stay in business. And, one thing we know about new businesses is most fail in the first 1 to 5 years. And so when they get to loan on something that is an undervalued real estate asset, it's super beneficial to them, because in their eyes, if Henry defaults on his $115,000 house loan, they get control of an asset that's worth 160. And so they can sell that. Even if they sold it at a discount, they still make way more money than I'd ever make paying them just my interest payments every month. And so that really sparked my interest in like learning how to work with small local banks, bring them deals that they find valuable, and then, work with them on lending terms that I find valuable. And so that's what I've used ever since. And it's really what's kind of helped me grow and scale.
All right. That's really interesting. I don't really speak briefly about mindset, because you said you started telling investors or people you were an investor without, I guess, first being one, but I think it's really important to do that. Yeah. So what do you think about just overall, what kind of mindset is required to?
Yeah, man. It's my back was kind of against the wall with trying to figure out how to make more money, because my wife deserved the life that she wanted. She wanted a house beyond the starter home we built. She wanted to be able to, have kids and afford them. She wanted to be able to travel. And like, I was so used to spending every dime I made. I had nothing saved. I couldn't be on the loan for that first house that we bought. And so like, I was like, man, I've got to figure something out so that I can like provide, because I wasn't able to provide, even though I had a great job. And so that having my back against the wall, I think forced me, as I started to learn and discover about what real estate was and discover how powerful it was. I just decided, like, I just made a decision that I was going to figure it out, because I kept seeing so many other people who had figured it out. And I was like, these people they can't all be just smarter than me. Like, they figured it out. And so if they can, I can. And so like, I had a plan A and no plan B. My plan A was, it's going to work or it's going to work. Because obviously it does work. So many people are doing it. Clearly I can figure this out. And so the mindset for me there was like, the very first mindset shift I made was I made a decision that I was going to be a successful real estate investor. And I think that's where a lot of people fail or quit on any endeavor, really, not just real estate. Like, if you don't like honestly and truly decide in your mind and in your heart that you're going to do something, then it doesn't get done. Like, if you tell yourself you're going to try something, you're going to give it a go, you're going to see how it goes. Like all those phrases we use when we're going to do something new, we're going to give it a shot, see how it goes, right? All those things just tell your brain that like you're going to try it. And then if it doesn't work exactly, then you don't do the thing, right? But when you tell your brain you're going to decide to do something, right? It's a decision. You've made it. You're going to be successful. There's no other option, right? The suffix of the word decide is side, which means to kill off, right? Like suicide. So like, you're not leaving yourself any other option. And so you're telling your brain, if I don't know how to do it, figure it out. And so as you start to run into obstacles and things, your brain's already automatically working for you, because that mindset is working in the background. It's telling your subconscious, telling your brain to go figure out how we're going to figure out how to get around this, because we already decided we're going to be good at this, right? And so your mentality is different when you make a decision. And so that helped me get started. And so instead of saying, well, I don't know how to do this, since I decided I was going to figure it out, my next natural step was, well, go find the people who are here who do it, and then just be where they are, so you can try to see how it happens. And so I found every local meetup I could, and I went to every single meeting they had. If there was a meeting, if people were in a room talking about real estate investing, I got in that room consistently. And I think that's another place where people drop the ball, is everybody knows you go to RIA meetings and you make great connections. But what happens is people go to one meeting or two meetings because they meet once a month, and then they start to fall off. They don't stay consistently. And when you do that, you deprive yourself of the relationships that you're going to build by showing up consistently. You're also going to bond with the people who are there every week, who show up consistently as well, right? And typically those people are doing deals, they're active, right? They're getting something of value from continuing to show up. And so you'll start to get things of value from them. They'll naturally want to help you. You'll share contacts, you'll share information, right? And when you just show up here and there, that you don't get the same value. And so I think the consistency of being around people who are successful at it, and then actively telling everybody what I wanted and what I was, that mindset of just, in my head, I was a successful real estate investor. There was no plan B. So why not tell everybody that I'm a real estate investor? Because I knew it was going to work, or I knew I was going to make it work. And so that was probably one of the most powerful things from a mindset perspective that helped, because a lot of the times when we're going to do something, we got to convince ourselves first. And when you're just constantly putting it out there, it's like self-fulfilling prophecy. You keep saying it, you will be it. And then people will also believe it. And then real estate investing is like, HGTV's made it this like sexy business. And so like, when people hear that you're a real estate investor, they perk up, they're interested. They want to talk to you about it. They want to tell you about their neighbor who's thinking about selling their house, or they want to tell you about their buddy who's a contractor, or they want to tell you about their cousin who's a real estate agent, or they want to tell you about old so-and-so who's got some money and is looking to passively invest. Like, you just start getting all these connections just from telling people that's what you do, because lots of people want to do this, but they're too scared to take on the risk. And so they'll try to like help you or live vicariously through you. And I've gotten tons of connections that I still use to this day just from telling people I'm an investor and I want to buy houses.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good point though. So before we started recording, you mentioned that the reason people don't really successfully scale their businesses because they're not scaling the deal flow and the money flow. So why don't we talk a little bit about that and how you figured out how to do that?
Yeah, for sure, man. Like, it's like any business. Like if you're going to buy something, you need to be able to find out how to buy that thing at a discount so that you can sell it at retail value. And you need to be able to find the money to buy the thing so that you can sell it. Right. And so it's the same thing with real estate. Like I knew once I had done that first deal that I wanted to scale this business because it was such a powerful like shift for me doing that deal. And so I then said, all right, well, how do I scale? And the way to scale to me was, well, I need to keep finding deals to find. Well, how do I keep finding deals to find? So I started researching, well, who are the people who find the most deals, who has access to all the deals, who always has deals? And the answer at that point was wholesalers, right? Wholesalers were always the ones out here finding all these deals and selling them to people. And I said, all right, well, I'll just study what wholesalers do. And so I learned a whole lot. I dove into like all the different methods of direct to seller marketing and how to find off market deals and how to create this deal flow. And then my mindset at the time was I'll operate like a wholesaler in the way that they generate leads. And then I'll leverage these small local banks who will let me who will fund 85% of my purchase price and 100% of my renovation costs. They just want me to put a 15% down payment. I've got other local real estate investors in my RIA group who have money who would love to make 10 to 15% interest. And so what I did was I said, all right, the bank's going to give me 85% plus the renovation. I need 15%. It's typically going to be anywhere between $15,000 to $25,000, depending, at that time on the price point of home. So I was like, I went to some local investors who were doing deals and turning deals and had money sitting around. And I said, would you let me borrow 15 to 20% as a second note on that I could use for these down payments for these properties? And I'll pay you 10, 15% on your money. I'll just have it for 90 days, 120 days while I renovate that property and sell it, or renovate that property and refinance it. And most all of them said yes, because they were also real estate investors. So they understood that their money was backed by real estate. They knew who I was because I was consistently in the room. They knew, they trusted me, and they knew that that money was backed by real estate. They knew that if something happened and I didn't pay my bills, the bank would take back the house, and when they go to sell it, they'd get paid off on that second mortgage. So they were like, yeah, you're going to pay me 15, 20%. You're only going to have my money for a little bit. It's a great way for me to make some extra money. And so that's how I figured out how to get deals done, basically 100% financed, none of my own money out of my pocket. And so now I'd solved the money problem. I now knew how to generate leads and I knew how to get the deals closed. So I actually didn't have to wholesale or assign anything. I just bought everything and then either sold them on the market or sold them after I closed on them to other investors. Or rented them out, or lots of rental. I have lots of rentals. Yeah.
Right. So you're kind of using this as a past tense. Are you still actively building your portfolio, or?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always buying, man.
Okay.
Buying.
Cool. I just want to make sure nothing fundamentally changed, because it seems like it's still a good market to buy in, right?
Oh, it's a phenomenal market to buy in, man. There's more deals now. The deals are going to start coming in hot and heavy. Like, real estate's cyclical, obviously. Like, we're either going to be in a stage where it's hard to find deals, easy to get money to pay for them, or easy to find deals and harder to get the money to pay for them. So we're shifting into the latter of those formulas right now, because buying under market value typically means you're buying a situation, and a tough financial market breeds more tough situations for people, which means there's more deals to be had, but banks are getting tighter on the lending terms and rates and things. The interest rates are going up, so money might be a little more difficult to get. That's the back and forth game we play.
Yeah, that's interesting. But working with small banks, maybe that gives you a competitive advantage, because obviously the bulge brackets are like the first to dry up and be like, no, screw you, I don't need to help anybody.
Right.
I need to just survive, and then otherwise the government will bail me out anyway. But too big to fail. But back to small banks. So what kind of criteria are you using to evaluate which lenders you want to work with? Like, say if I was just to go outside or Google around, I guess, what would I be looking for in a small bank?
Yeah, you want to look for banks that have local regional offices, so they don't lend nationwide. The majority of their branches are in your town or around your town on some level. You want to look for banks that have between 1 and 3 billion in assets. It used to be just 1 and under, but small banks are growing. So you want to look, 1 to 3 billion in deposits is considered small, in my opinion. And then you want to look for ones who want to work with you. And I know that sounds super cliche, but what I mean by that is when you go to them and you say, hey, I have 123 Main Street under contract. I'm looking to do a deal. And you tell them I teach my students to walk in the bank and tell them what you want and then let them tell you why they can't do it. So when you're able to walk in the bank and say, hey, I've got 123 Main Street under contract, I'd like to buy it. I'd like to put no more than 15% down and get it on a 20 to 25 year amortization with a 4.5% to 5.5% interest rate. Is that something you can do for me? Right? When you approach these banks, if they don't communicate with you in the timely fashion or communicate with you in the way you like to be communicated with, if they don't seem like they're valuing your business or the deal you're bringing them, then just move on to the next one. Because I think we approach banks incorrectly as people and as investors. I think we approach them typically with hat in hand and say, I would like some dollars for I can purchase this real estate deal, please. And we forget that like they don't have a business without us. Like they need us to eat. So you approach them with confidence. You approach them because you have something of value, and you let them know what you want. And the ones that want to work with you, they'll be excited about it, man. They'll be happy to figure out what they can do because they'll want to keep you bringing those deals to them, because those are safe bets. Those are the kinds of deals they want to take to their loan committee to get approval for, because they're going to be like, yeah, do that. Don't bring me any more of these startup restaurant, food truck deals. These, they go under all the time. I don't need to own another food truck. I want to own some real estate if they default, right? Like those are the kinds of things that people that the loan committees get excited about. And so like, just know what you have and know what you're looking for. And I only like to work with the ones who have good customer service and who treat me and like they value what I'm bringing them. They're a dime a dozen, so you can find another one if you don't get what you want. You don't have to take the first answer you get from a bank as what you work with.
Okay, so when you're going in there, I know you tell them the terms that you're looking for and everything, but what are some other kind of prodding questions that you ask them to qualify them?
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to work with people who they have some understanding of their local market. And so some things that I like, one main question I like to ask when I'm going to work with a small local bank is because some of the concern when you're working with a bank versus when you're working with a hard money lender, private money, or when you're paying cash is you can't close as quick as those guys. And so you can't compete with these cash offers people are making, right? Well, there's no cash, there's no cash deals. Like you don't just show up with a bag of cash and then you hand them a bag of cash and they hand you some keys. Like it all has to go through title, right? And so when people hear you're going to buy my house with cash, what they really hear and want is the speed with which that deal can get closed. Because when you pay with cash, there's no appraisals, right? And there's typically very little inspections. And so I ask a bank, how long does it typically take them to close from contract to close? And then I ask them how they do their appraisals. So some banks have to order third-party appraisals. And that means when they're going to evaluate your deal, they're going to call old Jim Bob's appraisals, and old Jim Bob's going to go out there and do his appraisal. And he's probably a week behind because he's got appraisals backed up, and he's probably got, he's not great with his technology. And so it takes him a while to get that report kicked out to you. And by the time he goes out and does his evaluation, you get your report, 3 weeks go by. So it's going to take them 5 weeks to close, maybe 6, right? So you're at a month and a half to close. But if they do in-house appraisals, That just means they got a guy at the bank who runs comps, right? He can do that in like an hour. He'll just run comps and say, well, this house is worth about this much. Now, the difference between the in-house and third party is the third party is typically going to come back higher because Jim Bob's actually going out to your house and looking at things and asking questions and understanding what's going on, if things have been remodeled, yada, yada, yada. But the in-house is just going to run comps. They're not going to see anything. And so your appraisal may come back a little lower, but it will come back faster. And so my banks that I work with typically can do an in-house appraisal and get it done in less than a day. And the appraisal process is typically the thing that keeps banks from closing quickly. And so if you can shorten that time period by all the days to where it just takes a day, the only thing stopping you from closing is title work. And if you got a good relationship with the title company who can prioritize your deals and you can get deals done, I can close deals in a week, 2 weeks, bank financing.
Oh, well, that's amazing. So if they say that they use some third party, could you just push back and say, well, is it possible to do in-house?
Yeah, you can absolutely ask, because sometimes what happens is they'll give you the default answer of we do third party, but really it's just like we'll do in-house if the deal is within 0 to 150,000. If it's above that, then we have to do third party. But each bank's going to have different rules. Some banks don't do any in-house and they can only order appraisals, and some banks love to just only do in-house. And so just talk to them and understand what their normal process is. But I ask them typically, how long from contract to close to you? And then how long? And then how do you do your appraisal process? And I get the details on that.
Okay. So I've noticed that you've done single family and some multifamily properties. Are you sourcing these deals the same way across the board?
Yep. All my leads come from direct mail and or cold calling. Is what we do right now. So I've got a driving for dollars list that we mail and call, and then I've got a bunch of different motivated seller leads that will mail and call. And so I do a combination of both of those things.
You have like a network or team of bird dog folks that are doing some.
So I've got some people who drive for dollars for me. Yes. And so I just leverage Deal Machine. I give them, they have an account and they go and they drive and then identify properties and I pay them for every property they find. And then if I buy a property they find, I pay them a big bonus.
Okay. What kind of bonus would?
Yeah. So my structure with my drivers is I pay them $2 for every house, every qualified distressed property, regardless of if I ever buy it or not. Like if they find a distressed property and it's an actual distressed property, they get $2. So if they go out and drive and find a whole bunch of houses that are all distressed, and they'll get $2 for each house. If I end up closing on the sale of one of those houses, if it's a single family, I'll pay them $500. If it's a duplex or higher, I'll give them $1,000.
Okay. So how many do you have working for you at any given time?
Oh man, I had like 8 working for me at one time, but what you're going to find is as you start going through drivers, you'll go through a whole bunch, but you probably only have 1 or 2 who do it super consistently. And so I had 2 drivers who just knocked it out of it. They identified 85% of my distress leads.
Interesting. So I could think of some creative ways to find these drivers, but they're probably going to be wrong because you have more experience than I do. So how would you go about finding these drivers?
Yeah, the best way that I found, the 2 drivers I had that did the best, one was just a family friend who was down to make some extra money. He literally drove, most of the time he drove on Sundays on his way to church and on his way home from church. And he would just snag a bunch of houses on the way there and then find another neighborhood on the way home and snag houses, got his kids into it. They had a good old time, made a bunch of money doing that. My other driver was a local aspiring investor who had been coming to meetups all the time, and he was a truck driver. And I was like, well, if you're ever just on the road in town, you want to snag some houses, and he was all about it. And so he's been a great driver for me. And so people who know, like, and trust you tend to be the best drivers. I've recruited drivers from delivery drivers. So I stuck a flyer on my front door that said, hey, Uber driver, or hey, Uber Eats driver, if you want to make some extra money, as you're driving around doing this, then scan this QR code. And when it would scan the QR code, they'd get like an email that told them about what they were doing. And then I would call them and talk to them about it. And if they were into it, I'd get them signed up.
Okay. Yeah, that was the first thing I was thinking, was if you were able to connect with Uber drivers or someone they're already doing it.
Yep.
And so I've also heard a lot about like connecting with the mailman or someone else who's just
Yeah.
always in a local area.
Yeah, that's
So
a great idea. I've never done that one, but I've definitely heard of that.
yeah. All right. That's cool. Um, so between I guess so you get driving for dollars, and that's like one source lead, and you either cold call those leads or you send mail to them. Um, but are you, I guess otherwise you're just getting a list from PropStream or something and sending out mail in
Yep,
bulk. Okay.
that's right.
You
Exactly
don't,
that.
okay. You don't do any like SMS campaigns or anything like that?
Never done SMS, never done ringless voicemail, never done any of that.
Okay. Any reason? Just no interest or?
I mean, I only did mail for the longest time. I just started doing cold calling maybe 6 months ago. Mail has always worked for me. It's just, all the strategies work. That's what I tell people. Like, don't rack your brain over trying to figure out which one works. They all work. That's why they're a thing, right? What makes you successful or not is how relentlessly consistent you're going to be in the pursuit of that strategy. If you just try a little bit of that one and a little bit of this one and a little bit of the other one, that it's going to take you a lot of bit of time to find a deal. But if you focus and put the time, money, and effort into any of those one strategies, it will be successful for you. They all work. So mail just worked for me, and I didn't deviate from it because it was providing me enough deal flow. And honestly, like, my business was just my wife and I, and so, like, if it provided more deal flow, it would just be wasted leads. Like, I couldn't scale fast enough. And so now we've started to hire people, and we are looking to scale more. And so that's why we've started cold calling and implementing some other strategies, because now we can take advantage of more deal flow.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I found in my business too, is mainly mail and SMS campaigns. So usually it's like two primary channels that are working really well. I used to use RVMs, and they work decently well too, but I found it's kind of chaotic, and you have all these different people calling. Yeah, you just left me a voicemail, call about my property. It's like, all right, well, which one were you? I just,
Right.
I mean, I only left like 4,000 voicemails in a span of 30 seconds. So, but you can't tell them that either. It's kind of weird.
Right.
But it's easy on like SMS or something. It's coming on that record, and all right, what's the APN for that property? I'm in land, so it's more like APN because there's no address assigned yet.
Right.
And anyway, but very similar stuff. And the more I think about it, the more I need to get at least a couple houses in our portfolio beyond the two that I got that don't really do much for me. It's like super low cash flow. Those are my very first
So you're flipping the
properties.
land?
Yeah, primarily just flipping land. Although I'm in the process of subdividing a couple parcels, and one I'm trying to develop into like Airbnb property, but
Yeah.
it's going to take a long time just to get the survey done. It's like 6 months because it's just so backed up. So
How do you minimize your tax hits flipping land without any holes?
that's exactly why I want to buy some depreciable assets, because I did get hit in the face last year. I paid 20,000 in taxes. I'm like, I probably could have avoided that. Like, as a
Yeah,
real estate
absolutely.
investor, I should be smarter than that to
Just
do that. Yeah.
owning property for you should just be more about not having to pay taxes than it should be. I mean, and you get all the other benefits.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone that's like has a general understanding of land knows you can't depreciate land. So that's the biggest problem with that. So
Yeah.
even if I have inventories, there's nothing I can do really. But if I build a house on it, it's a depreciable structure there. Obviously, it's helpful, or something else. And also, like, going full time this year, I left my day job a couple months ago.
Congrats.
That Thanks. It's been an adjustment, but definitely excited. Starting to build the team out a little bit more too. But I say that because that opens the door to more easily qualify for that real estate professional status
Yeah,
and
man.
start getting that depreciation going to shield the flipping income.
That's right. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. But land's interesting. I mean, you can still make it cash flow, like selling on terms. I don't know how much you know about land, but
Yeah.
like,
I've done a few land deals.
okay, cool.
my very first land deal we bought and sold on terms. So that one's great because we're still getting the cash flow off that. And then this past year we've been flipping lots about an hour away from here. So we're flipping lots in Missouri. So we're buying them, and we know a builder in the area. And so we're basically finding the leads, negotiating the purchase price, and then going to the buyer and saying, what will you buy this for? And if they'll buy it for more than we've got it under contract for, then we just flip it to them. And if not, then we'll go renegotiate.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually wanting to get even more business to that because when I first started, and it's still actually probably 80% of my deals, it's wholesaling where I'm buying it and I'm obviously going to comp the property and really strong conviction I can sell it for a good spread. But the best scenario is when you already got the buyer, you already know what they're going to pay, and you just bam, bam, bam. Like you don't even take title of it. You just sign the contract and done.
That's my favorite kind.
Yeah, those are good. I mean, and also what I've noticed is like with land, oh, you can invest remotely, like anywhere in the country. And then what happens is your brain starts exploding. You have a meltdown because every single new market, you gotta educate yourself on how do I price this? How do I underwrite this? Oh, look at the comps. Well, there aren't any comps, and like it's like a year old or more. It's like it's not helpful. And
so, are you using the county assessor's number as your value and then trying to buy it under that number?
Typically, you could do that, but it depends on the state. So when I first started, I found that was definitely possible in a state like Texas, where the assessed value is usually well below the market value. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I had sent mailers out in North Carolina where the assessed value was like multiples higher. It's like 20,000 higher than the market value. And or it's like $20,000 assessed value, and I'm trying to buy it at like 5,000 to sell.
So they're taxing people. They're taxing people on the value of property that's higher than what it's worth. So they're getting like ghost tax dollars.
Yeah, it's bullshit stuff. It happens in these states. Yeah,
that's nuts.
And it obviously depends on the market within that state too. I mean, maybe you could find certain exceptions, but I also say all of that because just recently for the 2022 assessed values in Texas, they're actually jacking them up higher than the market value. Texas, like they're getting greedy. It's like, wait a minute, even for my house here in Richardson outside of Dallas, I'm like, I just comp my house. It's not worth that much money. Like that's over the market value. That's just stupid. So I'm having a third party challenge that for me so we can get that back down. But anyway, you can't fully rely on that. I'm trying to go off the 2021 value.
Or just take advantage of it and go get a line of credit on the equity so you have cash to buy properties with.
Yeah, that's what we did for our 2 ring houses. It's like I could sell these and pay a bunch of taxes or 1031 them into some unknown property that I have to go find, or I could refi them. And for those, like we owned them since 2019 and we got like 120,000 extra equity in them by doing nothing. So I was like, all right, it's all right. We'll do that. And
don't refi them. Line of credit.
Well, I mean, that's what's secure in the line of credit. This is a business line of credit, and that's what they required. First liens.
Yeah. Okay.
You say an unsecured line of credit, or what do you mean?
No. So that some people refinance their properties, right, to pull the equity out, and so they'll redo a new loan at a higher amount and then put the extra in their pocket, which is essentially selling your equity. You're selling it to yourself, but you're selling your equity. And then when you do a new loan on a property, your interest is front loaded for the first several years. So you're paying higher interest rate, or you're paying more interest for that money on the front side, where you can just go to a small bank or a local bank or really any bank and get a line of credit against the equity. And so they'll basically say, well, you owe 100, but your house is worth 200. So we'll give you access to 85% or 75% of your equity. So you'll get access to $75,000 at like a 4 or 5 or 6% interest rate. But you only pay interest on the money you borrow that you have out. And so like, if you find a house you want to go buy and you need to borrow 15 grand off your line of credit to go buy it, you'll only pay interest only payments on the money that you borrow to buy that property. So you're not paying interest on all of the money like you would be if you restructure the loan and take it out and put it in your pocket. So it's a cheaper way to access the money.
Got it. So it's almost like a cash out refi, but you're not paying all the money on that extra cash.
You're not redoing a new loan, right? So like for me, who If I had a rental property with equity, I can cash out refi, meaning let's say I owe 70 and then I do a cash out refi. And so I get a new loan at like 150 and then I put the rest in my pocket. Now my new loan's for 150. And so I hurt my cash flow because now I have a higher mortgage payment, but I put that money in my pocket, but I'm paying interest on all of that money because my interest is front loaded in the new loan. If I instead go get a line of credit on that equity, then I don't pay anything as long as I don't use the money. And if I do use the money, I only pay interest on the money that I take out to buy the other property. And my loan amount stays the same. So it's still a $70,000 loan or whatever it was to begin with. And so my cash flow stays higher as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think I did that, but I just didn't know I was doing exactly what you're explaining. So that makes sense. But it was through like a refi. I guess what you're saying is you don't even have to refi it. But so first it was with like Bank of America, and then it went with the small bank. Yep. And I just didn't even bother talking to B of A because I don't want to try to jump through all their hoops, and they're going to tell me no. But these other guys were very eager to work with me. So back to your point, because like you said, these small guys are wanting to get your business. So
yeah, man, that's like surefire bets. They would love to go into committee with those. They look like a genius.
Yeah, definitely. And funny enough, like I actually got a relationship with that bank because I was trying to do a self-storage deal with them, and they underwrote the loan. It was like $375,000, and I talked about this on some prior episodes, but like we were a couple weeks away from closing. I talked to the city. How do I get permits to reinstall like an automated gate and stuff? And like, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't have the proper, it's not up to code. It's not even zoned for storage.
Oh no.
And second, it doesn't have a certificate of occupancy on file with the city.
Oh
and so it's gonna cost like $250,000 to bring this up to code. And plus we don't want to rezone it for you anyway, because we want that whole area of town to look like Plano, Texas.
Oh man.
It's like,
so were you able to get out of that deal?
Yeah, I pulled out of the deal, and because I got it out in my contract, fortunately, so I dodged the bullet there. But
wow,
it would have been like, because the reason it costs so much money, like a couple of reasons. So when you get a new certificate of occupancy, you have to like you have to install trees every so many feet, and then some shrubberies, and you have to install lines of irrigation lines across there to water them. So, but there's no water on that side of the highway. So then you got to drill underneath the highway, and you got to build some new water lines, all this stuff. It was just like crazy. It just got more and more painful to try to underwrite that deal.
And this is why you need exit clauses in your contracts, because that would have sucked.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just the down payment on that loan would be like $75,000, and then you'd have to come up out of pocket another 100 or 200,000. It's crazy. It's like,
right.
It's not going to work. But self-storage is cool. Maybe still do some deals. But so you've done a couple, have you?
I did one self-storage deal. I would love to do more.
Okay. Can you talk about that one a little bit more?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So we put a deal under contract, and the lady accepted our offer literally right as it was like late March 2020. And so like COVID was ramping up just then, and like everybody was on big fear factor mode. Nobody knew what was going to happen. And so us included, and storage not being my bread and butter, I was looking to say, all right, well, let me sit on some cash just in case opportunities pop up, or the economy gets crazy and I need cash. And so I said that deal was the first deal I looked to liquidate because it didn't fit my normal investing strategy. It was something I was trying out. And so instead of holding it like the original plan, we actually called. There's literally another storage facility right next door, literally next door. And so we ended up calling the owner of that one and just said, hey, we're the ones who just bought this one. Would you buy it for? And we ended up selling it to them for like 120,000 more than we bought it for. And so I made money. Like I flipped it. It was a quick flip. It was like a hotel, right? That I wholetailed to the owner next door. and we sat on the cash. And, looking back, obviously we should have kept it. No one knew the market was just going to skyrocket in early March 2020. So like I did the best. I did the best thing I could think to do, giving all I knew at the time. Like if it was March 2020 all over again and I knew what I knew then I would make the same decision. Right. So do I wish I kept it? Yeah, for sure. But that's hindsight. You can't really operate like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That makes sense. But yeah, I mean, you could like, I don't know how that facility was performing, but if you could stabilize it, it's like 90% occupancy and then sell it at a higher premium,
Yeah.
be great. Or just hold it forever and
That was what I wanted
lifetime
to do.
cash flow.
I wanted to just hold it. I had been fighting hard to get one, and I finally landed one and let it go. But hey, what do you do? I'll find another one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a matter of the strategy. I learned how to source them and stuff, focusing on like more tertiary markets, not like in the middle of the metroplex near Dallas and stuff, because they want 7 figures and up, but
Yep.
just trying to find some like 6-figure purchase price like outside of town. And like actually the strategy too, little gem to drop, is like focus on ones that don't have a website. Like you just can't find them. Like they're not on Google Maps, nothing, because they haven't been contacted by the brokers or other real estate investors or anyone.
Right.
And then, I mean, you may not be necessarily the only person in their life that's been interested or want to buy that property, but there's obviously going to be a lot less competition.
Yeah, I have a buddy who does storage mainly. He was a residential investor. He had about 27 doors and he sold them all off and started doing storage. And the way he markets is probably one of the coolest strategies I've heard for marketing for deals like that. And he does what we call network marketing. And so he finds all of the mom and pop owners and he generates a list of their information and he markets to them through direct mail, but he's not marketing to them in a sense for saying, hey, I want to buy that. He markets to them in a sense to say, hey, I am also a storage facility owner and I see you own, ABC storage. I would love to just chit chat with you and talk shop about real estate. And he gets a great response because these mom and pop owners, they love talking shop and they'll call him and he'll build these relationships with all of these different owners. And when they're ready to sell, they sell to him. Or if they're not ready to sell, they typically know, oh, I'm not ready to sell, but old Jim Bob down the road, he's got his facility. He's been looking to get out of that thing for a while. Let me give him a call and introduce you. Maybe he's looking to get out of that thing, right? He's just bought tons of deals just by networking and building relationships and using that as his marketing.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I've been playing with my software to try to figure out how to generate lists of these, because that was like one of the first things too. So it just took so long to build these lists. But is your friend just using PropStream or something? Or
no, I had gosh, man, I can't remember what it's called. US lead list or USA lead list. It was something geared more towards commercial properties for finding the owner information and building lists. I'd have to look it up exactly, but I think it was something along those lines.
okay, cool. Well, I definitely covered all my questions here. Do you think there's anything else we should hit on? I know that if you go to henrywashington.com, you're talking about a book and you have a course. Why don't you talk about that a little bit and just maybe people interested in check it out?
Yeah, for sure, man. So I've got a couple of courses both on how to find these deals. So the 2 problems that I talked about, right? You got to have the lead flow and the money flow. I just created 2 courses that talk about how to solve those problems. So one is a beginner's guide to finding great real estate deals, teaches you all kinds of ways to find deals on the market, off the market. Then I've got another one for how to finance deals with little to no money using small banks. It teaches you exactly how to find the small banks, approach the small banks, and build the relationships to get the optimal financing. And then those are, you can click the link on my Instagram bio. I'm at the Henry Washington on Instagram, and it'll take you to those. They're only like $40. I don't charge a bunch of money for courses. And then I've got a free book on how to use the small banking loans. That's at my website, henrywashington.com. The whole goal is just to share this information with as many people as possible so they can change their lives. And so that's why I don't really charge a bunch of money for the courses and things. I want people to have affordable access to the life-changing information, and then hopefully they do something with it.
Okay. That's awesome. I'm going to put those links in the show notes. It's very helpful. At Henry Washington for Instagram, henrywashington.com. The last thing, though, to leave our listeners, I know that I've heard Tony Robbins was mentored by Jim Rohn, and Tony asked Jim, "Why do you teach the same content over and over?" And Jim said, "That's because 90% of people aren't going to do anything with it. And so, although you're providing it for a low price, most people aren't doing anything. So, if you're listening to this and you're looking to take action, that's it. Just take action. Just do it. Do something with the information. Yeah, that's what I like about real estate. You just got to take that leap and just dive in. You can't think about it. You can't get your toes wet. You just got to dive in."
That's 100% what I did. It's 100% true. Most everybody who's kind of gotten into it has just kind of done it and, ready, fire, aimed it.
Yeah, exactly. Amen. Well, I think this has been very helpful. I've definitely learned a few things from you. Thanks for coming on the show. This has been great.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
All right, that's another episode of Scalable Real Estate Investing. Thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to leave a review and subscribe on whatever channel you're using to listen or watch these episodes. And also be sure to go to scalablerealestateinvesting.com, scroll to the bottom, and fill out the form to sign up for our email. And you could also reach me directly at mason@scalablerealestateinvesting.com. That's MASON at scalablerealestateinvesting.com. If you'd like to get in touch with me to either partner on deals or even be considered to do your own episode on this podcast. Thanks again, and have a great day.